In the days when Israel had no king, when Philistine soldiers patrolled the streets and God's people lived in fear, there remained one man whose strength defied every enemy. His name was Samson. Chosen before birth, set apart by God, marked by a vow that no blade would ever touch his hair. A man who carried the strength of heaven in his muscles and a weight of Israel on his shoulders. But even the strongest warriors fall when their hearts turn away from the one who raised them. Samson's life had been a storm, victories that shook nations and mistakes that shook his soul. And now the storm was ending. After his betrayal, after the silver in Delilah's hands, after the shears cut away the final symbol of his calling, Samson was taken in chains. The Philistines gouged out his eyes, mocking the man who once struck down armies. They dragged him to Gaza, forced him to grind grain like an animal, a once mighty judge reduced to humiliation. But the enemy did not know one thing, one truth that hell itself cannot silence. Hair grows back, and so does calling, and so does faith. In the darkness of his blindness, Samson began to pray again, not for revenge, not for pride, but for purpose. And God listened.
Lord, remember me.
On the day of the great festival, the Philistine rulers gathered inside their massive temple. More than 3,000 men and women filled the balconies, laughing, cheering, celebrating their victory over Israel's champion. They shouted for Samson to be brought out, to entertain them like a trophy from the battlefield. Blind, weak, led by the hand like a child, Samson stood before the nation that once trembled at his strength. They did not know the God who was rising within him again. Samson asked the servant boy beside him, "Lead me to the pillars. Let me rest against them." His hands found the cold stone, 2 pillars that held up the entire temple, his final battleground. And there, with the roar of thousands above him, with the weight of Israel behind him, with his destiny standing in front of him, Samson prayed a final prayer. "Lord God, remember me. Strengthen me just once more, so that with one blow I may bring down the oppressors of your people." He pressed his right hand against one pillar, his left hand against the other. The muscles in his arms trembled, not from weakness, but from a power returning, a holy strength surging again through a broken vessel. Samson drew in a final breath, a breath that carried every victory, every failure, every moment of wandering, and every whisper of grace that led him back. And then he said, "Let me die with the Philistines." And he pushed. At first, nothing moved, only the laughter of the crowds. But then, the stone began to crack, dust fell from the ceiling, screams replaced the mocking cheers. Samson's arms shook under the weight of the building. He pressed harder and harder, and heaven gave him the strength of 1,000 warriors once more. The pillars collapsed, the roof tore open, the mighty temple of Dagon crumbled into ruin. And in that single moment, Samson defeated more enemies in his death than he had in his entire lifetime. His story ends not with glory, but with redemption. Not with pride, but with surrender. Not with a hero who never fell, but a broken man who found God again in darkness. Samson's last stand reminds us, no matter how far you fall, no matter what chains bind you, no matter what mistakes haunt your past, God can give you strength again. God can restore what was lost. God can turn your ending into victory. This is the story of the last judge of Israel, the blind warrior, the restored servant, the man who died standing in the purpose of God. This is Samson's last stand.